I made a video a couple months ago anticipating the release of my new book, 2 Years Homesteading Off the Grid Alone. But today's the actual date for 2 years off the grid, so let's take a look around the homestead and see how far I've come. If you've read either one of my books about homesteading, the first things I talk about are food, water, and shelter. The very first thing I did was built this shelter. It's a shed that has an awning, and I can harvest rain off of the roof. I can store tools and food and work out of this shed, which became the shop for my tea business. I'm taking advantage of the shade, and so is my dog, Incus. And this is really the largest amount of shade on my homestead during the summer. Inside the shed, I have a roughly 9 kilowatt solar system. So I've got 7 100 watt solar panels out here. I've also got a 400 watt turbine right there, which, although it's not on a 20-foot post, it actually does a fair amount of harvesting energy. And when I can get around to it, I'll raise it up about 20 feet and I'll tie it down. I've got a couple shop lights inside that are powered from these little solar panels. If I just need a little bit of light in the shop, I can turn this light on. And if I need to really light the shop up, I can turn on this light. And it actually, as small as it is, it lights up the entire shop. This is a parking lot light on the side of the shop, and it will actually illuminate the entire homestead out here, after dark. So if I need to get out there to help Bonnie, my sow, give birth to her piglets, or I need to check on the goats, or maybe there's a ruckus back there in the shed, I can go check on all those things, and it really lights everything up very well. I also have a couple smaller lights here. These are security lights, and they just provide enough light that if I need to get out around the shop at night, I can see without disturbing myself or anyone else. All of the corrugated steel up there is scrap material, and then it leads into this rain gutter and goes down into one IBC tote on this side. So that's about 300 gallons of water I can store over here. And this side, I just fashioned the gutter out of flashing, and it comes down into this tote on this side. So I can pump water out of that tote to take a shower, or one day I'll use it to wash the dishes. If I want to drink water, I always throw it through this Berkey filter I built. It's just desert sand, pea gravel, and activated charcoal. So I pour the water inside the top here, and it works its way down through all of the substrate and filters, and then I can pour it in. I usually fill up 3 or 4 gallons every couple days. This is the chimney for the wood burning stove that comes out along the side here. Once the sun is on the opposite side of the shop, this is a nice shaded area that I can sit down and eat, maybe have some company. I've got wind chime in the tree and some bird seed, so there's always birds over here. And it's just kind of a oddly cool place to hang out towards the end of the day. I have my solar system in here, which recently I upgraded to a 48 volt system. It's just so much cleaner. There's a lot less to it. There's a link below for this Blue Power 6048 if you want to get one. I don't have a ton of affiliate links down there, but I have one for that. I have 8 sealed lead acid batteries that are underneath the cardboard there. There's a converter for 48 volt to 12 volt, which goes to a circuit breaker. And then I've hardwired in this outlet. It goes to a breaker. So there's 2 legs that come from the Blue Power 6048. And one of them goes to my freezer and a couple other items. And then the other one goes to the office stuff. This freezer, it's been up in the 90s, or well, just barely touching the 90s. And I'm able to keep it nice and frozen. And there's quite a bit of meat in there. A lot of this is goat that I just harvested recently. Currently, I'm able to store quite a bit of food storage in here. I've got about 8 dozen eggs right there that are in pickling lime to preserve them. And then, of course, I just have, all the basic tools and things that you would need clear out here in the middle of nowhere. I've got a rowing machine and a bike that I use because I do work out. I've lost 140 pounds since I've been out here. This is my shower. You know, it's basically outside. It was built on the outside of the shed. I only use natural soap, and so it's not a big deal that whatever soap goes down, you know, the water goes down the drain, and it actually goes outside and over on the way over to the pond I'm building. And you can see grass and different things growing out there because it's just a clean gray water that goes out there. I have a wood burning stove here, and that's where we were looking at the chimney that goes out. This side of the shop, I have all of the different blends that I use to make my tea blends. I've got red tea, blue tea, green tea, corn flour. All of the bulk tea goes in these big tubs, and then I mix the different herbs into the blends that you saw in the smaller containers above. All the jars here, you know, this was sage I harvested, mint, basil, parsley, red pepper. These are all seeds and things that I've grown and harvested, and there'll be a lot more this season. For the business side of things, I can easily power up my laptop. I have a thermal printer for all the stickers on my packaging and postage, and another printer which I rarely use. In addition to the original IBC totes that I put in for rain harvesting, if that overflows, which it does sometimes, especially monsoon season, it'll flow into this area. I've got these pigs fenced in to a small pond, which is just enough to keep my driveway from flooding. But if it was to really, really rain hard, the water would build up and run down the swell here, all the way along the side of the property. And this space over here is where I plan to park a travel trailer or build my home eventually. So the swell runs all the way down and around the corner, and it comes over here to this huge pond I dug. It's not huge, but it was quite a bit to dig by hand. So it's about 22 feet by 14 feet, and it's over 3 feet deep. So this would hold about 5,000 gallons of water just to keep my land from flooding, and hey, if there's that much water, we can put it to use for the livestock. I have this agricultural shed where I store food and feed, and I harvest rain off of it as well. I filled this tank. It's 330 gallons. One time I filled it, and I've never filled it since. And I've ran this geothermal that I built, and I'm able to water it. You can see it's still freshly watered. For over a year, I've never filled it. I just am able to continually water my garden. It's just about time for a new load of hay and straw, but this is where I store it. And then I have feed and different items that I use around the homestead. And then in the corner, I built a 10 by 10 gym. And, well, that's been part of what helped me lose so much weight. This pen right here was originally my first garden, and now I've housed my goats in it. I keep my rooster in there because if I didn't, he'd tear up all the hens. And then over here in the pig pen, earlier I showed you the pigs that were in the pond, but over here I have my female. She's resting in the shade, and she's super pregnant. She'll be having piglets again here soon. Currently, with the livestock that will be born and that's currently here, I have 24 months worth of meat. And I'll show you the gardens next, because we're talking food, water, shelter, right? And I just recently tripled my garden and added 2 more hugelkulturs to grow food for my livestock, and I'll also let them graze outside the gates. The hoop house here is the first garden that I got outside of the very first season. I actually grew a lot over there, but I thought I needed a hoop house of some sort. And the big plants you see in here are from fall, and they're still growing. And then there's a ton of seedlings in here. All of this lettuce, the beets that you see, the snap peas and that salad, that lettuce, it's all brand new. Sage and lettuce and red romaine, these are all growing new. That looks like it could be a snap pea over there. There's arugula, carrots. This one is spinach. This one is beets. And there's onions in the corner. There's more beets over here, wildflowers, asparagus, cantaloupe, spinach, Swiss chard, beets, carrots, beets. There's cilantro, tomatoes, just everything you could think of, really. You just can't see it quite yet because it's yesterday is the first day of the season that you're supposed to plant, but I planted a couple months early, you know, trying to get a head start. And I would say I was successful. I have 6 hens, by the way, and I get at least 6 eggs every day from them. And a lot of that I feed to the dogs. I've actually been watering this. It's a wild goji berry bush, so wolf berries. And then this hugelkultur is covered in sprouts. I've got a lot of different squash and cantaloupe and things like that growing on this hugelkultur I just built. These are my original composting bins that I fenced in with a couple more hugelkulturs to grow feed for my livestock. There's a bunch of wild wolf berries that I'm not watering. I've never seen berries on any of them, but I think we'll get berries on the one I'm watering. So this is the geothermal. This is one of the first things I worked on. It took me a long time to dig this by hand. And everything you've seen that I dug by hand. Most of it, including this, was with a $4 shovel. This is plant fabric. I just pulled most of it down because it's not going to freeze anymore. And I've planted in here 3 times because, like I said, I'm trying to get a jump start. And it just didn't work too well. I only got a few sprouts. There's one here. But just yesterday I planted 20 potatoes, and then I mixed in some other things like lima beans and bush beans, and then I got 20 more potatoes, and then I think there was some corn and something else. And so I think I mean, if the potatoes don't come up, you know that I should probably just quit as a gardener. This morning I fed the dogs a couple eggs each, and here's 4 more eggs. The ground is hard enough there that he'll have no problem getting that yolk up. They've already had 3 eggs each, and soon I'll cook up some pork chops and share those with them. Here, you want one more? I better hurry. Oh, you better get it. I'm gonna make one for the cats right now, but it looks like they're getting a lot of that one. One of the cats has worms, so I've been here, kitty. I've been giving them a lot of diatomaceous earth. No, in hopes of what happens is the diatomaceous earth will dry up the worms and it'll kill them off. But I mean, I've been feeding, this is the one that has worms, and I've been feeding her diatomaceous earth, and that one as well, for about a week and a half. And it hasn't, she's really having a hard time. Like, I haven't killed them off yet. And today I drove all the way to town to get dewormer. I checked, no, go on, go. I checked a few places and nobody had cat dewormer. So, well, in matter of fact, I ordered some online and it was supposed to be in town, but it wasn't there. So we'll have to hang on a few more days. Come here. Come on. Come. Good boy. There you go. Back to the geothermal. It's 6 feet deep. It's about 14 feet wide, 16 feet long. So it has 30-inch deep rows, which are standard, and 16 feet long. I've wrapped it with a 6 mil greenhouse plastic, and I built the greenhouse over the top with, I put rebar down at an angle, and then I put 2-inch PVC over, and then I built in a 2x4 wooden frame. And the wind out here is crazy. The one thing nobody told me about is the 60 mile plus an hour winds that tear apart greenhouses and stuff. But my greenhouse has done really well. The only problem I had is at the top, 2 of the ribs broke free because I didn't have the right angle for the PVC. And I'll fix that soon. I'll patch up the hole. And if it wasn't for my mistake on that, I have 2 little holes where the ribs are at the top, and otherwise it's held rock solid, really, considering, because even the manufactured greenhouse I have, after 2 years now, the top of it just ripped off and I had to repair it. The geothermal is 6 feet deep total. I put down 4-inch corrugated tubing, 200 linear feet of it, because it's a 200 square foot place roughly. I backfilled compost on top of that, and then dirt and compost, and that's what I'm growing in now. There's about 1.5 to 2 feet of compost on top. So there's a 4-inch inline fan at the top of the geothermal. It pulls the hottest air down through the 200 linear feet of hose, cools it down, and blows it back in around 50 degrees depending on the time of the year. But whether it's summer or winter, there's about a 15-degree variation. So if it's, say it's 30 degrees outside, it's really cold, it's actually 45 degrees inside. The first season that I attempted to grow in the geothermal, it was amazing. I had a bunch of buckets down there, and I grew all kinds of stuff. So the outdoor garden at first that I tried, and the geo, they did amazing the first time. But I'm changing things up in the geo, and it's been too cold. I like to push the boundaries of everything. So pretty soon I think you'll see a flourishing garden in my geothermal. The newest addition to the homestead is this 6 foot by 6 foot root cellar. So this will be about 7 feet tall. Most of it will be covered in dirt, and we'll have a nice place to store roots and vegetables. That's, well, the coolest place on the homestead. If you want to learn more about my homestead, check out my website. You can get my books on there, which will tell you everything I've done from the beginning till now. And there's a blog, there's videos, and of course my products. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.